We will deal with the following objectives in this lesson. Identifying special features of engine immobiliser systems for petrol and diesel engines. We have seen that the injection system plays an important part in the way immobiliser systems operate. We're now going to look at the injection system in detail. All petrol vehicles with immobiliser systems are fitted with injection computers. This computer is coded and authorises or prevents the engine from starting. To do this, the computer makes use of the petrol pump, injectors and ignition. In this section, we have looked at the following points. The petrol injection computer affects the petrol pump, the injectors and ignition. Diesel vehicles are fitted with mechanical pumps without an injection computer in first-generation immobiliser systems. First-generation immobiliser systems with diesel engines use a conventional stop solenoid valve. The pump solenoid valve is simply supplied by the decoder. When the immobiliser is active, the solenoid valve is not supplied and remains shut, thereby preventing the engine from starting. When the immobiliser is inactive, the decoder transmits a 12-volt supply to the solenoid valve, which opens and authorises the engine to start. There is no repair code for the first generation. The solenoid valve only needs to be supplied with a 12-volt after ignition feed to authorise the engine to start. In this section, we have looked at the following points. First-generation immobilisers on diesel engines include a conventional stop solenoid valve supplied by the decoder. The solenoid valve only needs to be supplied with a 12-volt after ignition feed to authorise the engine to start. Second-generation immobiliser systems on diesel engines are fitted with a coded stop solenoid valve. This type of solenoid valve contains a stored code. Unlike injection computers, stop solenoid valves do not have their own indicator lights on the instrument panel. A new procedure of indicating a fault with the coded stop solenoid valve decoder is therefore required. When the ignition is switched on, the decoder transmits the frame to the coded stop solenoid valve. The coded stop solenoid valve compares the code received with the one stored in its memory. The coded stop solenoid valve opens if the codes correspond. The coded stop solenoid valve then transmits an acknowledgement signal to the decoder to signal that the code has been received correctly. The discharge signal transmitted by the coded stop solenoid valve is the same for all systems. If the comparison fails, or there is a technical fault, there is no discharge signal, and the immobiliser warning light flashes to indicate the fault. The decoder must be configured to specify the presence of an injection computer or coded stop solenoid valve to indicate whether or not it is expecting an acknowledgement signal from a coded stop solenoid valve. In this section, we have looked at the following points. The coded stop solenoid valve on second-generation systems contains a code in its memory. The coded stop solenoid valve receives the coded frame from the decoder and transmits an acknowledgement signal. In the event of a fault, the immobiliser warning light flashes to signal this. The decoder must be configured to specify the presence of an injection computer or coded stop solenoid valve. The latest vehicles are fitted with diesel injection computers. There are two possible configurations. If the computer is accompanied by a coded stop solenoid valve, as is the case for Lucas DPCN and Bosch TPP EGR pumps, the coded stop solenoid valve is independent and the computer only controls the injection. Otherwise, the computer controls injection and also the immobiliser function as for petrol engines. In this section, we have looked at the following points. There are two possible configurations for vehicles fitted with diesel injection computers, depending on whether a coded stop solenoid valve is present.